If you're in the mug, you know this is why I don't.
No spoilers from the
If you're coming in and you want to participate in the raffle, to participate in our mini game show at the end of the panel, please come to the stage. And Nosuke will give you a ticket. It's not terrifying. Very state-of-the-art ticket.
Hand over the tickets.
He's gonna rip him like a man.
No, you're supposed to be right. I'll find it if I break it.
Give it a... Oh, you found Kurt! That's awesome.
No one gets 17.
Does anybody want 17? Any big ones out there?
You sank my battleship.
So this is what we get for showing up early. I'm going to awkwardly
Well,
fill
it is our class. No, it is our class.
Oh yeah, it's 11:40. We can start. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna start. Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. We are going to be getting started. So I appreciate each and every one of you for coming out here at 11:45 at night instead of having fun out at the convention. But hopefully you enjoy our presentation. This panel is going to be focusing on traditional art and music styles as we see them represented within the series of Demon Slayer. As you can tell, we've never seen Demon Slayer. Never. No.
Not once.
But let's get started. So unfortunately, we don't have time to finish, but we had to give you a little bit of an intro play song. As we said before, this
No
is
killing in the audience.
Demon Slayer Traditions, translation of art and music into anime, and we're Second So Cosplay, and this is...
Rustic Dagger Company.
It's a whole company right in here.
Just one.
We found them on the silent now. Everyone wants to adopt them after this.
You must feed and walk.
And feed chocolate.
Alright, so we're going to start off with a brief amount of art history. I promise it will be brief, so you will not hate me.
I'm sorry, you guys might learn a little bit tonight. Not again.
So,
Learning's for nerds.
traditional styles of Japanese art is generally, you'll see ceramics, sculptures, painting, calligraphy on silk and paper, ukiyo with block prints, origami, as well as more recently, manga, as well as many other significant art forms. That started around 10,000 BC and is still going strong. One of the coolest things about Japanese culture is when they had invasions, or if they went out and got new cultural ideas and they brought them back to Japan, they would pick and choose what suited Japanese preferences and aesthetics, blend it into Japanese culture that existed to create a new cultural art form. We also start to see the first examples of complex art in Japan started in the 7th and 8th century. It started in connection with Buddhism, which makes sense because across the world you'll generally see that these more complex arts were tied to religion. In the 9th century, we do start to see the rise of secular art. Unfortunately, by the 15th century, secular and religious art are no longer going to flourish together. You're only going to start to see the secular art because of the Onin Wars. This happened in 1467 to 1477. It was a time of political, social, and economic upheaval, and eventually a form of power would be seated under the Tokugawa shogunate. Due to this, you no longer have Buddhism and Shinto at the forefront of the culture, so we start to see secular artwork and culture start to rise and fill that void that was created. One of the biggest things we'll be looking at is the use of brushes in paintings, in calligraphy, how that's integral to Japanese artwork, because they really value this Zen idea that came about when you touch the brush to paper. And then it's in the Taisho period. And these are just a few examples of woodblock prints.
This is the part where you start paying attention.
Spoilers. Alright. So, when it comes to Demon Slayer, the series, it is set in the Taisho period of Japan. The Taisho period, or Taisho era, lasted from about July of 1912 until December of 1926. And this was during the reign of Emperor Taisho, hence the name. This period, we see a lot of the culmination of Western ideas moving into Japan. This started mostly back in the Meiji era beforehand, and continued on in the Taisho period. Here we are going to see an expansion of things like new art styles being introduced, musical influences coming over in terms of musical forms, what kind of styles that they were playing, and instrumentation. And as we can even see within Demon Slayer itself, there's an increase in technology, where they started using things like trains. You start seeing larger cities starting to form, where they have business districts, entertainment districts, as you might have watched this past season of Demon Slayer. And what really represents this Taisho period is that mixture of the traditional Japanese style with influences from other cultures, including Western traditions.
Alright, back to me, because obviously I'm the word.
She knows the art stuff.
So, yeah, that's actually the only reason I'm important right now. So,
You're lovely.
thank you. So woodblock printing is a type of artwork where you have these wooden plates and you'll have ink that will be put onto them. This is generally a watercolor base for the Japanese artwork, and then it will be stamped onto them. Because of that, you're going to see a lot of line work that's used, two very different two tones and colors that will be really striking and sharp, and this will be important later on. And this is actually called ukiyo woodblock printing. So it started in the 7th century from Asian continent. From there, Empress Shotoku, she wanted 1,000 talismans that were printed, and so she printed them using this woodblock printing technique, and then it would continue to be used to mass produce Buddhist texts later on. And it was also used to help increase literature, because inexpensive literature had a growing demand during the Edo period, and this was the cheapest form to print in. And then it eventually grew into color printing by the late 18th century and became more sophisticated. You see more techniques happening, and that's when we start to see the Sasaku Hanga, which is the creative print. This is an art movement of woodblock printing, which was conceived in the early 20th century Japan. It stressed the artist as the sole creator, motivated by a desire for self-expression, and advocate the principles of art that is self-drawn, self-carved, and self-printed. Just from those statements, I feel like you can start to see this idea of westernization that had gone into Japanese art styles. And then the other, the Shinhanga, the new prints. So that, as opposed to the Shinhanga, was a movement that maintained the traditional ukiyo collaborative system where the artist, carver, printer, and publisher engaged in a division of labor. Creative print artists distinguish themselves as creators of art for art's sake, which is more the traditional Japanese sense.
So artists were just a bunch of nerds.
So, why woodblock printing is important? So if you can see on the screen, with the great wave off Kanagawa, and then you just look over at water-breathing techniques in Demon Slayer, you can see how similar these art styles are. The two-tone tonality, the line movement, the fluidity of it, it's really representative there. And as well, when we see the flame and sun breathing techniques, it's really reminiscent of these prior woodblock prints. So that's kind of why woodblock printing is so represented in Demon Slayer, because you can see exactly where these art forms were drawn from and how it influenced the creators using the artwork. Moving on to calligraphy. They really like things with brushes. The reason for this, which you'll see in Shoto, which means a way of writing, is that The main focus of Japanese calligraphy is simplicity, beauty, and a connection between mind and body. So it was this really Zen, Buddhist, and Shinto influence idea where your art would hit the paper with your brushstroke, and you would have one chance to get this right, and it would kind of flow from it. Why is this important? Well, if you look at some of the calligraphy artwork that I have displayed here, and then you come and you go look at Daki. So you can see that lined on his shoulder, you see these brushstroke techniques. And every time we have these moments of high intensity within Demon Slayer, you'll see them go from these straight, simple lines to these more complex, more similar to calligraphy-based strokes, which we can see more on the next page. So if you look over here at Tanjiro, you can see how these lines really represent this really bold to thin line style as it goes around his shoulders, and it really helps him to stand out from the rest of the background. You have this again with Rengoku, as well as with Nezuko, and if you just watch the scenes within Demon Slayer, you'll start to see that you'll have these more calligraphy-style brushstrokes when there's moments of high intensity.
For example, in the bottom panel with Rengoku, you see Tanjiro and Zenitsu. They're very simply drawn, where Rengoku is very thick and intentional because they want him to be the focus. Yes, I call Rengoku thick. But he's intended to be the focus of the frame. So those brushstrokes help emphasize that. So, in conjunction with fine arts and music, there's also a lot of dance that is represented within Demon Slayer. The most notable one are the kageras. Kageras are typically dances done either by a priestess or someone related to the faith. That is a ritualistic dance to honor the gods. In Tanjiro's family's case, since they work with charcoal, they honor Kino Kami-sama, the god of fire. So the kagura, they are believed to predate different theaters, like No Theater, Kabuki. We'll talk about those in a little bit more detail in a bit. And they are also, the legend behind where kaguras start is there's a legend involving the god Amaterasu. Amaterasu, the legend goes that she was upset by the violent antics of her brother, the god Storms. She had fled into a cave, plunging the world into darkness, as would happen without the sun. The deities in the pantheon gathered to try to figure out a way to get Amaterasu to return to them. And one of the gods, which one was that?
Ame no
Uzume, decided to perform a hilarious dance. When seeing this dance, the other gods started bursting out in laughter. Amaterasu, curious from behind the cave, hears this laughter and decides to come out of the cave and rejoins the other gods of the pantheon, bringing light back to the world. This is pretty symbolic, especially those of you who watch season 2. Hopefully everyone has. Amaterasu, the god of the sun, kind of relevant to how the plot's going to develop later on. So, and then we will have a couple of examples. We have a traditional kagura dance. You can see that on the play. Yep. On the bottom there. Here you may notice the traditional robes. Although, again, kagura are usually very connected to religious values. So you have those robes, and she also has a couple of instruments. And you do that dancing, offer your thanks and praise to the gods that support you. And of course, we have to show the scene from Demon Slayer. The music's not that loud. I can hear it.
ほら、お父さんのカメラよ。うちは火の仕事をするから、 怪我や災いが起きないよう、年の初めは日の神様に舞を捧げてお祈りするのよ。
That last pose.
That's
Great. But yeah, you see Tanjiro's father is clad in robes that possess flames, again, praising the fire god, Kami-sama, and performing a very practiced and free-flowing movements in a dance to honor the gods.
Now, and here we see a typo on my PowerPoint where I repeat things. Ignore that. So some of the traditional masks are kitsune, and they're used in No, Kyogen, Shinto, as well as Kagura masks. There's also many other types like Tango, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So a kitsune mask is the mask of a fox, and in Japanese culture, they tend to have a very contradictory, contrite behavior. You'll see that there's different types of fox masks, like the Hakakitsu, a mother fox, Jin Temko, a silver fox, Kinko, gold fox, Hakuko, white fox, and there's many more different types. So in the Shinto religion, a fox is a messenger of the god Inari, who is the protector of rice, agriculture, and fertility, and these masks are also used in festivals. So it's kind of a mask of a god and someone who's contrite. The reason why this ties into Demon Slayer is because Urodaki makes masks for his pupils to offer some protection. And as we know, he made one for Sabito. Moment for Sabito. So Sabito has a kitsune mask, which is really representative of the character who has this very contradictory and contrite behavior. Sometimes he'll be supportive of Tanjiro when he's training him, other times it almost seems like he's just getting in his way or playing with him. But it's really representative of this traditional kitsune character in Japanese film. And then we'll move on. Yeah, good point. To the Tengu masks. Everybody knows who Urodaki is. So Urodaki wears a Tengu mask, which makes sense. Tengu are fearsome demigods who protect the mountains. Tengu masks are also used for node state plays and certain Shinto festivals. And one of the things is that they're thought to frighten bad spirits and bring good luck. So here you have Urodaki. He guards his mountain. He's one of the old Hashira, though he's retired. And, you know, his mask is meant to frighten bad spirits, or in this case, demons. Kimonos! So one of the coolest things about Demon Slayer is 3 of the main characters have very traditional kimono patterns. So Nezuko has an Aso no Ha pattern. This is inspired by the shape of overlapping hemp leaves. You'll see it in Buddhist art, statues, and it was also popular in kabuki stage costumes and woodblock prints during the Edo period. It was also seen to ward off misfortune, which kind of relates to the character of Nezuko. Yes, her whole family was slaughtered. Yes, she was turned into a demon, but she somehow managed to survive through all of that, find Tanjiro, and has somehow maintained her sanity.
That pattern did.
Exactly. But as you can see here, this pattern is actually used commonly in the kabuki stage costumes. Oh, you can't see my arrow. Well, there is an arrow, you just can't see it.
She had pointed to the leftmost picture there.
So, with the Hyori patterns for Tanjiro Kamado, he wears a black and green Ichimatsu pattern. It's very similar to a go board. And the reason it's called Ichimatsu is it was actually popularized by a kabuki actor, Sanogawa Ichimatsu. He wore striking white and blue checkered trousers. So Ichimatsu pattern represents longevity, thriving in business, and both personal and familial prosperity, which represents the Kamado family pretty well. Sure, half of them got slaughtered, but the fact that his sister and Tanjiro managed to survive through Muzen's attack, they managed to survive throughout these time periods and continue to pass down these traditions is really reflective of this pattern. A cool little fact about this is the Ichimatsu pattern was actually used in the symbol for the 2020 Olympic and Paralympics in Tokyo. I'm really sad we don't have any Zenitsu cosplayers because I couldn't find a picture of Zenitsu's kimono in the upright position, which better illustrates this. So he has a version of the Urokomen pattern, which is a bunch of overlapping triangles, which you can see in the bottom right. So historically, this triangle was called the Urokomen because it looks like scales, or uroko, found on snakes, fish, and dragons. It would be put on burial goods, it protected the deceased in the afterlife. It was also believed that that pattern had the power to protect against evil and curses. And it was also commonly used in no theater on snakes and eventual female demons. And in the Edo period, it was used as molting snakes, butterflies, and came to symbolize rebirth and escaping from misfortune. But if you look at Zenitsu, the character Zenitsu will fall to his misfortune, he gets knocked unconscious, and this is when his training comes into play and he's able to go from that misfortune into his own love. And he probably really wants to wear a pattern that wards off evil and curses knowing Zenitsu. Now, it's time for music.
So, music is a little bit more of my forte here. So, earlier we mentioned that Demon Slayer taking place in the Taisho era. A lot of the music that came about in that era did have a lot of influence from Western civilizations, but they still heavily utilize their own traditional instruments and musical forms. The Demon Slayer soundtrack itself incorporates both of those themes where you have the traditional instruments, but you have newer instrumentation, you have synthesized instruments, you have guitars, all that good stuff. So it's a good reflection of essentially when it was supposed to be taking place. So we'll be going over some of the instruments that you may or may not recognize. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the instruments and play a couple of musical clips so that you can kind of hear and maybe be able to pick that out next time you listen to the music. So the first instrument that I want to point out is called the shamisen. It is a 3-stringed instrument. It plays similarly to a banjo or like a mandolin. On the bottom left, you see a picture of it, and you strum it with what that's called a machi. The shamisen is used in a variety of different musical performance styles. It can be used in just orchestral, regular music performance, but they use it a lot traditionally in theater performances, such as kabuki, with the heavy makeup and the dancing, or bunraku, or puppet theater. I always imagine like Muppets kind of thing. So here we can listen to some, this is traditional shamisen playing. You can hear just the very sharp, but succinct like plucking of the instrument as you strum it. And then the audio clip from when Zenitsu is playing as you see in the bottom right. For any Uzui cosplayers out there, you are the inspiration for that shamisen playing. But in that scene, when Zenitsu is playing the shamisen, that aggressive style of playing was frequently used in theater performances when they wanted to denote rising action, or perhaps someone is being chased. Maybe there's a sword fight. But it was used in conjunction to the action of the stage actors to emphasize what was going on and to add to the more energetic feel. Next instrument is the shakuhachi. It is a bamboo flute instrument. Originally, the instrument was used in imperial court music. So when the higher ups would gather and have their ritzy gatherings, you would have musical groups that would gather to perform for the nobles. This was called Zenkaikon, and you'll hear us reference that a little bit more in the next few slides. So these court music performances, the flute was played in conjunction with a lot of the other instruments, shamisen, koto, a couple of drums, and usually a vocal accompaniment as well during these performances. The use of the shakuhachi evolved into more religious kind of instrument. Buddhists, specifically the Fuke Buddhist sect, use the instrument as a means of a spiritual tool and a way to practice Zen meditation. You can even look that up today. There's clips on if you want to invest into your own shakuhachi. Warning, it will probably cost you a little bit of money, like 4 digits.
If anyone wants to buy one for us, we're open money.
Please donate to the fund. But it's the use of the shakuhachi today even still includes that meditative style of playing the suizen. Shakuhachi, being a woodwind instrument, is often accompanied by a stringed instrument like the shamisen or the koto. And you can listen to the clip here.
Yes. Just listen very carefully. Just listen.
This is a very traditional piece of music from Japan.
Why are we doing that one?
So there's actually a reason for that. Shakuhachi can be played like a traditional flute, but because of the very clear sound of the long body of the flute, it is also very impactful in emotional scenery and trying to invoke emotions from the sound of music. So often you will hear it very slow, melodic, and trying to carry an emotional weight with it. And the Demon Slayer soundtrack, I picked a similar track as well.
Feel the sadness.
So you can play the shakuhachi in a more traditional manner, accompanied in a regular performance. But most of the recognizable soundtracks from anime, especially Demon Slayer, you will hear it when there's a very emotional impact. When Tanjiro is fighting his little sister, when someone is facing their past, those kind of scenarios there. Sorry for the Naruto thing there.
We're not sorry.
We know you all know it. Another instrument, a stringed instrument, the koto, shows up in a lot of traditional Japanese music and in a lot of anime soundtracks. Sometimes this instrument can kind of blend into the background. It sounds similar to a harp, with a little bit less body, if that makes sense. The instrument is played by the performer having finger plucks on 3 of their fingers on each hand, and they use those plucks to strum at the different strings. Because of this, the koto is often referred to as a Japanese harp. This traditionally was often used in court music. The koto, being about usually 6 feet in length, is a fairly difficult instrument to make, especially if you make it by hand. So only those who had a little bit of money would be able to have access to it to be able to play it. However, the use of the koto did kind of evolve, where because of the complexity of it, but also the serene sound of the plucking of the strings, the koto was evolved to become a symbol of romantic imagery. It was used in poetry, it was used in short stories written in Japan, and essentially if you were playing the koto for a loved one, well, what better way is there to woo someone than to pull out a 6-foot keyboard instrument and start plucking away at strings. So we have a couple of soundtracks.
Where's my koto playing?
If anyone wants to invest into the koto to play romantic songs fund, talk to me after the panel. that was a more traditional playing of the koto. There you can hear a lot of different, you can play a lot of different notes, like any keyboard instrument. So you can play a lot of harmony along with a very clear and light sounding melody along with it. In Demon Slayer, we found a clip where you can hear the koto, but unfortunately it is kind of in the background. It's used more as a transition between one theme moving on to the next. So a little break to kind of relax before you increase the intensity of the song that's playing. Listen to that here. Or did we skip over that? No. Yeah. So it's being used to kind of, it keeps you hanging on. It keeps you kind of mesmerized, and it has an even pacing that you don't get lost when the impact of the next phrase comes in. And you hear those heavy instruments, the drums come in, the brass instruments. So yeah, it can either be played solo in a very relaxing way, or it can be used to accompany other instruments. All right, we're going through. Another instrument, you might recognize the guy on the bottom left, Kyogai. He was one of the first demons that we see in Demon Slayer use a blood art, or one of their special abilities. He actually uses the drums that are embedded into his body as a way of fighting. So you'll notice as he strikes each of the different drums, it affects the room that the combatants are in a different manner. So that's consistent with how people play the drums in real life, where there's different types of strokes where you can do a very solid tap in the center of the drum, and it creates a lower kind of like boom sound. So it'll be a little heavier, but if you just use your fingertips and tap the edge of the drum, it'll do a more higher pitched, kind of sharper tap sound. So we have a couple of examples. That you might see as like an introduction as characters in no movie theater enter the stage. And then we have an example of
Measly insects, you're irksome, now die! Rotating right! Back left! Insane!
So, as that's an audio clip from the scene where Tanjiro is fighting the drum demon, and notice he just does a sharp tap, and often that is essentially how it's played. The Suzumi drum isn't like a snare drum or something where you want to add a lot of notes being played, but it's meant to just kind of accompany the action that's going on. You can also see that when the action intensifies, and he does use his blood demon art, he strikes more rapidly to indicate an increase of intensity, indicate an increase of intensity. But that's represented in how they would perform it in theater and in the traditional Gagaku court music as well. Also, shout outs to my favorite voice actor. He's played by Steve Blum. Shout out to him. So, also, I wanted to highlight some of the vocal performance techniques that are used in traditional Japanese music, as well as some selections within the Demon Slayer soundtrack. A lot of these vocal styles were predominantly used in Gagaku, that court music, and some of the vocals are not necessarily lyrics per se, but are like sounds, like onomatopoeia, things like ki-ya, things that would add emphasis to the action that's going on. If you've ever seen an actual performance, and we have an audio clip, you can listen to that. So there, you can hear some of the vocal you have the main singer, but then you also have the accompaniment, the E-Hi-Hi. And in that clip, you also get to hear that there is the shamisen is playing the string instrument there, and you hear a drum in the background as well. And we also have another clip. This song, when I looked it up, is conveniently called Depressed No Skin.
I'm not depressed, I'm a genius.
There's that shakuhachi again. So, there's many more instruments that are being utilized. I could be up here for another hour or so. Some instruments might even start to develop into later plot points within Demon Slayer. So I won't discuss that since, I assume not everyone's read up on the manga. But it comes back to the main point of when making the anime for Demon Slayer, they chose to add traditional instrumentation in musical forms, things that you can appreciate, especially for us. Many of us, I would imagine, are American-based viewers, to get to hear these different instruments combined with some modern themes that we would recognize, like some of the heavy drums, some of the guitar playing, things like that. It just integrates amazingly well.
But it's also just really reflective of the time period in which Demon Slayer is supposed to be set, the Taisho era. So the Taisho, again, had that blending of Japanese and Western culture, and in Demon Slayer we have a blending of traditional and more modern artwork, music, culture, and instrumentation. Here's lots of references! Best line!
Look at that text size, so I hope you brought your glasses.
I love bibliography.
And now it's time for our show to be taken over by a math person.
We do have 20 minutes. Do we want to take any questions or any comments real quick?
We'll draw the raffle, then we'll take questions, then you get to take over. You
All right.
get to choose the raffle.
So for anyone who got a lottery number from us at the beginning of the panel, we're going to call numbers from a hat. If you are interested in participating in Short Games Show, it's going to be multiple choice, guess that artwork. We'll show different images, and if you know what it's titled, you can give the answer to us. If you do not know the answer, we will put up multiple choice that you can venture a guess.
It doesn't count. So if anyone showed up late and would like to enter the raffle, do so now.
Yeah, you
Anybody?
can come up here.
Also, looks like we got a question.
Yes. Is it Japanese artwork or is it American? Okay, Japanese.
Yes, all the pieces are Japanese artwork. A lot of it are things that we looked up when looking up art that kind of was similar and may have been inspiration to Demon Slayer.
They were all in the presentation. Not that
Wait.
that will be helpful.
You guys took notes, right? Right?
It's off the test.
Alright, girl, come on.
Alright, well, if there's anyone interested in trying to get in real quick.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, if you did pick a number from us at the beginning, but you do not want to participate, it's supposed to be a low stress thing, just a fun guess the answer if you want. We have little prizes at the end.
Everyone who participates gets a prize. It's just if you win, you get to choose first.
Anyone who did not enter the raffle, if you're gonna enter now. Otherwise, stop doing the work.
Any hope? We have one more.
Alright, we got one more.
Yeah. So,
I can predict. Work it like a man.
No, high-tech ticket. There you go.
alright. If your number is called and you don't want to participate, you can just let us know.
Alright, you take
And then-
questions, I do this.
Okay. Do we have another? Alright.
So you fill tickets, questions while I do this.
Alright.
Any questions?
So, does anyone have any questions or comments about what we discussed? Trying to think of something to lead into.
No? Okay, we're drawing.
Oh, we do have this question in front here. Yes.
I'm curious. Is the pattern on the robot? I blank on the character's name, but on the one of your
You. Yeah.
yes. Is the pattern on his robe traditional? something significant about that?
So, kind of. So there is a basket weave, but I cannot remember the Japanese name for it, but it's representative of the basket weave that kind of looks like this, but it's not really definitive. It's more lines that cross over. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's on an earlier slide. No, it's in the back. No. Okay, we're almost there. So close. Yeah, this one. Okay, so if you look here on the bottom right, you'll see that the one kind of has like a crisscross checkered pattern to it. So that's the closest that I was really seeing in traditional research to Giyu's pattern. This more seems like a more modern cubism interpretation of it, if it is, but who's to say? I'm not sure. But yes, there is a basket weave pattern that does the crisscross patchwork, which is kind of reminiscent of the alternating cubes. Any other questions? No? Okay.
Draw.
No.
Shit. Yeah.
You do know how to draw things out of the bag, right?
Throw things out the bag?
No. Oh, no. Okay.
You know what the hole in the bag?
I've done.
See what falls out?
15.
Okay. Do we have number 15?
Yeah, 15
Would you
in
like
there?
to come up? As you're called up, you can just kind of come up to this front row.
And now it's time for Name That Artwork!
Hey.
Still doing the round.
Yeah, well, we're not continuing.
Okay.
Okay, well, no 15. Next. 12.
Number 12, would you like to come up?
12. A lot of people are left.
12? Yeah.
We got a 12.
Some people did leave during the panel.
You're gonna have to
Nerds.
chair over.
Oh,
You need to
are we
move.
we're gonna have to sit.
You've been banned. You need to move.
Giyu and Mitsuri.
Alright, come on. You can do it. I'm leaving you. 3 more.
3 more? Alright. 8.
I have 8 over here. I'll take it.
Alright, yeah.
Go for it.
Close enough.
2 more.
2 more? This one. 14.
Do another one. Next.
Conjurers can teach me.
Well, good job.
This one. This one? Yeah. 9.
Yay!
Hey! Come on.
It's me!
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, you're.
That is
You
okay.
get 2 buzzers.
It's not us.
No, you don't listen. What?
Would you like to? Yeah.
Alright, so you have the very, very fancy, all-important buzzers
Blue.
that you get to choose. You must be at least 3 enough to use these. You may come choose your buzzer.
Alright.
Blue.
The upper end.
Roll for blue.
Right. Buzzer. 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 Right.
Very good. I'm so proud of you. Throw them over the stage. Come on.
Yes, come on.
Oh, unicorns.
Come back.
Come grab a seat.
Another board up. We don't get to stand anymore. Alright. The most important thing is to appeal to Inosuke. He will decide, Inosuke, whether or not you hit the button first. Alright, so the way this is going to work is there will be a picture. You can attempt to guess that picture correctly for 5 points. If you do not get it correct, you get no points. Then when the multiple choice comes up, you can get 1 point for that. If the person who guesses without anything gets it wrong, the next person can go. After that, no one gets points for that round.
Before we start, pink buzzer, sound off. Green. Blue. Orange. Nice.
Sorry, do you guys want to move this mic between you guys?
Sure.
Point them down so maybe you can catch.
Hello.
Alright, so we will begin.
All right.
All right. goes first?
A whole bunch of sounds just went off.
You can figure it out. He's crazy.
Hey. The butterflies. No.
Was this?
No, it was definitely that. Okay, great.
There you go.
Oh, the butterfly.
So, unfortunately, and this is why I'm a terrible human being,
Just butterflies. Just butterflies. I dare.
if you know a little bit about Japanese, they wouldn't use enough. Remember, you liked me before this.
The fire god, Fudo.
Oh, they'll be on scene.
No, I'm doing presenter. Now it's close. All right. Yeah.
That was good.
Oh.
Yep.
Wait, what is your guess?
Oh, fire god, Fudo, and sister.
Very good.
Dang it.
That's kind of Jeopardy rules right there.
No. I had half of it.
Not so close,
It's
man.
okay, you won't lose any points on that though.
Next piece. I think I wrote that was called Three Beauties.
That's actually correct.
Oh no. I can't read.
It was close. So again? Yes.
Which one?
It goes to, she guessed first, so it'll go to you.
Oh.
Yes, so your knowledge has worked against you.
I won't guess anymore. No. Keep trying.
You can do it!
Don't give up.
Anybody? Yes.
The actor cultural performing experience.
It was close.
Any other guesses?
Yes.
Is it C?
Yes! Yay! You did it!
Points.
Artist.
The Ichimatsu pattern was your clue there for the checker. That's okay, we're all and I was not nice.
Hey. Hey.
Yes.
It was correct.
Yes.
B.
That is not correct. Yes.
Is it A?
Yes. Yes. They like really obnoxious names.
Yeah, that's about right. I hate the word though. I got caught up. Told you you could do it.
Oh, so this is why I'm cruel.
Oh, that's mean.
Self-portrait.
83.
Yeah, 83.
Oh, you did get it right.
She looks
one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Hey, she got a version of the skeleton.
I appreciate that I see that a bunch of you were paying attention. It does bring me joy.
The answer was A, it was not spooky, scary skeletons.
Damn it!
Now, I'm going to press this, and you really want to make sure that if you want to guess this out of nowhere, that you're going to have to get it exactly correct.
Do it!
That's why I stopped right away of it's a
That's bad news for you. That was close. It was not it. That's incorrect. Yes.
Search!
Yes!
Oh,
This is
yeah, I knew it.
horrible. Well, this was the end of our mini game show. Thank you all for participating.
Give him a hand!
You two are tied. So rock, paper, shoot.
I was gonna say, I got swords.
I feel like I'm about a disadvantage. I have a degree on history.
No. She was at.
Yeah. Green and blue.
Alright. So the grand prizes for people participating will be keychains of different characters from Demon Slayer. So first prize is
What'd you pick?
You know, it's good.
The best boy.
She gets right. You got the full button. So she gets to choose first.
We didn't do reference.
congratulations on getting Michael Jackson.
We'll get there eventually.
Alright. So I guess that is the end of the game show portion. So can everyone give the people who came up a hand? Please leave the buttons and everybody.
Those buttons are mine.
That I got great joy out of torturing all of you. Listen, I was actually genuinely nice, and then my friends were like, you know what you could do? And I was like, that's great.
They need with words.
So, again, thank you all for coming to our panel that's here. How much time do we have left?
We have 5 minutes.
We still have 5 minutes that we have the room. So I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your time here at Zenkaikon. Make sure you get sleep and hydrate tonight. Does anyone have, what is sleep after all?
Sleep doesn't exist at a convention. What?
Do the lab. Do the lab.
You've practiced that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Alright, so thank you all for coming. This panel was meant to just kind of appreciate and look at a little bit more about the music and art style that's used within Demon Slayer. So hopefully as you continue watching, we know they're going to do a season 3, I just don't know when.
It's my season.
Yep. And hopefully you get to listen to some of those instruments that are going to be playing and appreciate some of the art style and think about that next time that you're watching them. So if anyone has any more questions, you can come up to us afterwards. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your night. And thanks again for coming.
Everybody go to sleep.
It's bedtime now.